What's up, everybody? Jordan Stewart here from Vover. Thanks so much for tapping into the Vover original show. Just a reminder that if you want to drop your opinions about the episode or respond to the host and guests with your voice, go and download the Vover app wherever you get your apps. Vover, voice over everything. Enjoyed the show.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the very first episode of the Scuffle Show. My name is Buster Scher. We have Nick Swinmurn and Tatiana Suarez on the show. This is going to be a blast. Guys, how are you?
I'm doing
good.
Well.
Ready to scuffle.
Ready to scuffle.
We have so much to talk about. I imagine starting with the fight of the weekend. You know, if somebody had told you 5 years ago that you'd be on Zoom talking about Jake Paul fighting, I don't know if anybody would have believed that, but here we are. Guys, what do you think about, Tyron Woodley versus Jake Paul Saturday night?
I'll go first. Buster, you've completely disregarded the UFC here. You've got a UFC fighter. You're telling her that the event of the weekend is Jake Paul fighting when there's a fight night. I mean, you start off with the wrong foot here. So we got two events. We got the UFC Fight Night, but agreed, Jake Paul has made more noise than anyone on the fight night. Tyron Woodley, he's playing along too. They've got a good. They're doing a lot of good promoting. So I think I agree. It is the weekend. What do you think, Tatiana? Is it hard for you to see this kind of fight overshadowing a UFC event, or are you all for it?
I don't feel like it is. I feel like a lot of people are really excited for this UFC event. We have a lot of good fighters on the card. You have the main event, which is Chikadze. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. Giga. I'm just gonna say his first name because that's easier. We got Giga versus Edson Barboza, and then you have Kevin Lee and
Daniel Rodriguez.
I was gonna say D-Rod, but I know he likes to be called that. And then we have that Russian guy. I forget his name. It starts with an M, and his name is Mahmoud. I don't know if I'm saying that either. Mahmoud.
I don't know either.
Muradov. And he's going against Gerald Mushert. And Tough, I think it's 29. Tough 29. The contestants are going to be, there's 2 weight classes. And you have Brian Battle versus Gilbert Urbina. And actually, I was on the show with his brother Elias. And then we have Rick Tercios versus Brady Heasted. I watched the entire Tough show, so I'm really excited about these matchups because they're both impressive. These matchups, I'm really excited.
Well, we're gonna have to do our predictions for this later.
For sure.
We're gonna have to say A or B for some of the fights.
I'm gonna be like, I plead the fifth.
Yeah.
But some of them I know, I don't like to choose sides.
I can't believe that there's been 29 seasons of Tough. That's crazy. But I do agree that Giga, or let's call him Ninja. I think he calls himself Ninja. I don't know and Edson fight is gonna be good. I'm excited for that.
Oh, I'm so excited. It's just, the classic striker versus striker.
Yeah. And we
so what's going to be the actual best fight? Not most hyped fight, not most watched fight, but best actual fight of the weekend.
I think it's going to be that 135 pound fight, the bantamweight, Ricky Tercios versus the Brady guy, Brady Heastand. I think that would be the best fight because those two are evenly matched in terms of skills. I think Ricky has better stand up, I would say, and I think Brady has pretty good grappling. So it's interesting to see. But I mean, Brady can stand too, but I feel like Brady's going to force that takedown, try to take his back. But Ricky's good on the back too. So that's exactly what I'm like. I don't really know. I feel like Ricky could do really well, but I also think Brady could do really well. So I'm in.
I think if you started one of those betting services where you give out picks to people, I don't know, you'd be undefeated because I'm still not sure who you picked in that fight.
Yeah, I don't.
So you could, yeah.
I'm not
So no matter what, right? You'd say,
Your
hey,
reputation would stay afloat regardless of whether you were right or wrong.
If I'm not right, you get your money back. No one would ever get their money back.
So they're not mad at me. I'm like, I love you all. I'm a fan of all of you.
Have you had someone you know pick against you and in one of your fights?
No one picks against me.
Or they're two. They would. There's no one dumb enough to do this.
Well, I've always been the favorite, so I don't think. Yeah. I don't know anybody who's bet against me.
That would be so crazy if you found out somebody in your family. Well, here's my
family wouldn't do that.
Your family, Buster. You went straight to the family. I was just talking about anyone.
Here's my response to that. Right, I have in the past played. I just became able to bet, but before I would pick guys who would play against my favorite teams in fantasy, just so that if my team's lost, at least I did well somewhere, and if they won, then my team won. Great. So if I had a favorite fighter, maybe I would bet against them just so that I win in one way, shape, or form. And I know people do that. So there is something to say there.
I've done it and it doesn't feel good because if the fighter loses, you're bummed. And then if
you're boned.
Yeah. And then no bummed. And then if the fighter
bummed. Then they said bone. I was like, what is that? What's you're F?
Yeah, you're F.
Yeah.
And then if the fighter, if you win the bet, you're still upset because the fighter lost. And if the fighter wins, you feel dumb because you're like, it was your guy anyway, your guy or girl, and you bet against him, and so you lost money. So I think it's although for you, I mean, I guess Tatiana, even if anyone bet against you, the one thing you've got going for you is they've never won.
Right.
So it's a
joke's on you.
Yeah. No, that's a good thing to have on somebody.
Uh-huh.
So I did bet on Woodley this weekend.
Wow.
I don't know if it was just with my heart or my head.
With my heart.
My logic was, I mean, I want Woodley to win. I feel like putting himself, I mean, I don't even know if it's putting yourself out there. He might just be looking at it as this is ridiculously easy, free money. But I feel like the blow to the ego of losing, it would just be hard. It would be harder for me to watch him lose than it would be to watch Jake Paul lose. And I don't dislike Jake Paul. I just think in Jake Paul's narrative and his career, it's perfectly acceptable for him to lose to Woodley tomorrow. Like if he loses to Woodley, I don't think it knocks him down a peg. I don't think it slows his ascent. I think he lost to a former world champion who's ridiculously talented. And Woodley, I just feel like, but my only concern with Woodley, I was trying to think of how to put myself in the equation, selfishly. And I realized that when you watch Woodley fight, it reminds me of, I used to like to go out and just drink as many beers as I could, right? It was like from 16 to 35, whatever. It was like on the weekends, you're like, let's go. How many? And it was all about what's going to happen. Like, this is going to be so fun. There was never a thought about the hangover or the next day. And then I hit a certain age where it was like, as much as I'd try to fire it up and still be that same guy, at some point, relatively early on or in the middle, I would have those thoughts of like, what am I doing? This is going to be terrible tomorrow. I have to get up early. I couldn't take the hangover. And when I watched Woodley fight, in his slump, I feel like he got to that point where he wasn't young and reckless anymore. He was like thinking about
except for his last fight.
His last fight he seemed to throw caution to the wind and say, you know what, I'm going to get in there and fight. But I feel like a little bit of that. Yeah, but I still feel a little bit of that there's still a little bit of a difference. He had to talk himself into that. Whereas when he was champion, he was just like, come on, anyone who wants it, it doesn't matter what happens, I'm ready. I'm not even going to think about the fact that you might catch me. And then I think he got to that point. It just feels different as a viewer, where you could see he's getting older. He's got his money. He's not as hungry, and he's thinking a little bit more about what might happen. That was my one observation.
Don't you think, like, anytime somebody says it's a walk in the park, especially when it's not against, a traditional real fighter, that screams to me that they actually think it's a walk in the park and that they're going to prep in proportion to that being a walk in the park, and then they get knocked out.
I don't know, Tatiana can answer, but this seems like wishful thinking. I think, this is a former world champion. He's not gonna go in there. I mean, you never know. There's a point. I mean, Ben Askren, you wouldn't have thought he'd just go in there, get knocked out, laugh, and get out of there. But like Woodley seems to be a different. Seconds. Yeah, but Woodley's he's a different athlete. He's a different personality. He's. I don't think he sees this as one last payday. I think he sees this as a possible jumping off point for his next, career and a new way to make money.
The Floyd Mayweather way. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's like psychological warfare, right? Like Jake Paul. I mean, I think he's just telling Jake Paul, you're nothing. You never seen anyone this fast. You've never been hit this hard. And he's just trying to, I mean, he truly, I don't know why as a former UFC champion, you would think any differently. Jake Paul's a little bit bigger, but like, I mean, Woodley was a national champion wrestler and in college, I guess. Right. And he's a UFC champion.
How much does this translate to boxing though? That's all that matters. Like Ben Askren was a world-class wrestler, but obviously it translated to a 20-second knockout.
Yeah,
Tatiana,
but if you think about the athleticism difference here, I mean, it's night and day when it comes to Ben Askren and Tyron Woodley. As far as like footwork and stuff like that, like. If you look at Ben Askren's footwork, you're just like, oh my gosh, like, has he ever done a sport in his life? No offense to him, but I mean, it doesn't look pretty, like it doesn't look great. But, you get him on a wrestling mat and he looks amazing, but with Tyron Woodley, if you watch him move, he's still, really athletic and he's very explosive. He hits really hard. We all know that. I'm really excited to see if he's made the adjustment in terms of like boxing, because with boxing the range is so much different than if you're fighting an MMA. You have kicks and people trying to take you down, and it's just so much different. So I'm really excited to see like what improvements he's made on his hands and his footwork, his boxing footwork and his range, and I'm really excited to see if like he uses a good jab and delivers a hard cross on Jake Paul's chin.
That would be crazy.
So what happens if Tatiana? What happens if Jake Paul does win? And like as UFC fighters, and they're going, okay, Ben Askren, it was almost like the perfect opponent for Jake Paul, right? As far as stand-up skills.
Absolutely, it would be if I was to pick one person out of the UFC that Jake Paul could beat in boxing, I would have picked Ben Askren.
Yeah. So what happens? I mean, what happens if he does beat Woodley?
He's a genius, because that happened. I don't know if Ben Askren, who called out who. I hope, I don't know, but if it was Jake Paul, genius. If it was Ben Askren, also genius, because he just got knocked out real fast and got a payday.
Made a lot of money.
Yeah. And he was
a little embarrassed, but
he was ready to get out of there before it began.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So
what about so during the I think he did an interview the other day, and they asked him, he said, hey, why is Dana White, because it is a little uncomfortable to watch Dana White suddenly say that Woodley is nothing and no good, and if Jake Paul beats him, it means nothing because it's an old washed up fighter, which doesn't seem to serve any purpose for Dana, other than he's trying to protect, on the off chance that Jake Paul wins, he's trying to set it up as, well, that's not the Tyron Woodley from a couple of years ago. And I think Jake Paul replied to that with, and someone said, what happens? He said, hey, Dana's doing his job. He's supposed to do that. I do the same thing.
Yeah.
The same way, I guess, Jake Paul has a list of like on his to-do list for a day, it says like troll the UFC, right? Like they say he has a list with a checkbox that says troll the UFC to get attention. But Jake Paul said, if me and Dana meet, someone said, what happens if you and Dana meet? He said, I end up knocking him out in a club. Like, what? I got two questions on that. One, what happens? Who do you got?
First of all, if he tries to hit him, he's going to get probably slept by his doppelganger bodyguard. So,
right.
I mean, I don't know how well trained that bodyguard is, but I imagine it's somewhat trained if he's his bodyguard.
Well,
Right.
Dana wanted to box
The real
wanted to
question.
box Tito, right? So could Dana box Jake Paul? Who would win?
I
Who you
don't
got?
know. That would be fun. I got the old boss.
I would pay to watch that for sure. I think
I'd
Jake
pay
would
$60
win though.
for that pay-per-view.
Jake's so much younger, but Dana. I don't know what Dana White's fighting prime is. What's his background?
He was a boxercise instructor, but he was managing Chuck Liddell, Tito Ortiz, from what I understand, right? And then he went to high school with the Fertittas, bought the UFC, and now he's just whatever the opposite of naturally huge is. I think is my assumption. I mean, not like he's not an athlete, so I mean, he can do whatever he wants, but he's a
right. So the real question would end up being who would win in a fight: Dana White's bodyguards or Jake Paul's bodyguards.
we'd have one of those like Russian 5-on-5 fights.
That's
like,
actually not a bad idea for another
example.
sport. Just have celebrity bodyguards duke it out. That's a great idea.
That
Nick,
would be great.
It should be sponsored by the Scuffle Show.
Tatiana, what's your if you could watch any two people fight, not non-fighters. I mean, you could throw one fighter in there if you want, but what's your just pure like, I shouldn't be watching this, but I'm going to watch it anyway fight?
Probably like two rappers, like a girl rappers or something.
You know what I would want to see?
Like Nicki Minaj and Cardi B.
That would be fun.
That would be a good one.
That would definitely do numbers.
Yeah. I would 100% watch it.
The way things are going, that might happen.
And I would be proud to watch it.
And who would you be rooting for, and who do you think would win?
I don't know. That's hard. That's tough, you know. I just want to see them get down. I want to see them scrap. I don't care who wins.
So if you had 5 minutes with one of them and you had to give them a quick advice on what to do.
Oh, I thought you were going to say if I had 5 minutes in the cage with one of them. I was like,
no.
It wouldn't be 5 minutes.
But you got 5 minutes with them, and you got to coach one of them, and you got to say, here's as soon as here's what I want you to do. In an MMA fight, Nicki Minaj, what are you telling them to do?
In the MMA fight?
Yeah, anything go. Just whatever. What are you gonna?
I'd be like, stick the jab. Kick him, low kick, body kick. And just hope for the best.
I think
jab and hope for the best.
Advice. Yeah.
I know. I think it's pretty solid advice. Just don't fall off the kicks.
I think set him up for failure. I think she was visualizing the one she wanted to lose. Because Buster, if you were about to Buster's going to get in a street fight. He to the bar. He's like, Tatiana, this guy's going to fight me outside. What do I do? And she's going to say, throw a jab and hope for the best. Buster's a big.
No, trouble. I said,
yeah,
stick and jab, or jab and move, or something. Maybe
that's like
the low kick. You know, people they don't really suspect low kick, but you know what? In a street fight, you gotta know how to low kick. You know. Because like if someone bum rushes you with like a flurry of punches and you're off balance and you're throwing a low kick and you're not balanced, it could be all bad. But if you know how to throw a nice, good, solid low kick, then the other person's going to be like, oh my God, my leg. I've never felt this in my life.
If I'm ever in a street fight, I guarantee you, I will think back to this exact moment and throw some leg kicks.
I would 100% like would resort to wrestling if I got in a street fight. I would slam somebody so hard.
Buster and I we're low kick. We're gonna whiff. We're gonna end up with our back to the person. They're just gonna choke us out. We're gonna be like, this was not the right. That's what's gonna happen. I think.
I need some of these bodyguards, honestly. And I would love to have some bodyguards in a street fight. That would be great. Back up when I missed the low kick.
Bob Cook, the coach McKay, would always tell me, I'd always say, hey, what would I? And he's like, dude, if you get in a street fight, here's what's going to happen. While you're thinking about what to do, someone's going to knock you out. And then you're going to wake up still trying to figure out what you should have done. So just don't get in a street fight. I was like, you know what, Bob? That seems like good advice. I think I could follow that.
Honestly, in a street fight, that's why I would take somebody down. Because it's like, one, like if they had started it and I had to fight them, I'd be like, I could kind of subdue them, you know, like maybe not hurt them so badly. But, you know, if I like punched somebody and they got really hurt, that'd be really bad. But I know how to wrestle so well that I could just be like, kind of take them down without hurting them too badly. That's just kind of subdue them, like make them look a little silly, like mount them and just kind of like slap them a little bit. Like, you better relax, buddy. You know?
You know who I'd want to see in a fight? I got two. One would be like a super heavyweight division where Shaq is fighting. So I'd want to see like a Shaq versus a LeBron. But on the flip side, I'd pay to see Shaq versus Floyd Mayweather just to see what happens. I don't know. What Tatiana, what happens if Shaq fights Floyd Mayweather in a boxing match?
Shaq,
it prime Shaq.
How much does he weigh?
Like in the 300s.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even want to see that. That's scary.
And it's muscle too.
Floyd would win.
Really?
Yeah. Skill.
Wow.
Yeah, I would think he would be just so much faster. He may not be able to knock Shaq out.
Faster. Shaq would probably get winded because he's not a boxer. He doesn't have the conditioning. Like, you know, it depends. Does he have like some solid like training, or is he just like coming off a basketball season or something?
I mean, he's super strong, you know. So I mean, I
just feel like Floyd
it's just a different level when you're that big. He's 7'1".
I feel like Floyd is like so like elusive. I just don't think he would. I feel like he would. I don't know. I just feel like his skills are just so like far better that he would.
It would be a 2 foot height difference and more than double his weight.
I still think he'd win.
Tatiana, when did you know you were a fighter? Yeah, what was the first time when you're like, you know what? I'm a fighter.
When I got in the fight in the 5th grade. Just kidding. It was like the 3rd grade, but I'm just kidding.
And she threw the leg kick.
and what happened? What happened?
I threw her in the sand. She would try to fight me, and I was like, no. And I freaking judo tossed her in the sand.
Nice. And then afterwards, you were like, you know what? I kind of like that.
Well, I've always been like a rambunctious kid. So that's why my mom put me on all these girly sports like folklorico dancing, which is like a Mexican dance, and like ballet and hip hop. And I was like, dang, this is boring. And then they put me in wrestling, and I was like, this is it. I love it. Nice. So I never looked back. I started wrestling at 3 years old, right?
3 years old?
Yes. 3.5 years old.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So I knew then that I was a fighter, because I remember one time I came off the mat and I was laughing, and my uncle's like, what's so funny? And I was like, I made that boy cry.
Yep,
so they
that's
knew
probably
I was
one of the key signs.
They knew I was a crazy psychopath at the age of 4.
So to show you the different paths we took, I remember my first, it might have been one of my only fights, was in 3rd grade too.
Oh.
And some kid had thrown home plate at me. We were arguing in kickball. He threw home plate at me. So then when he was drinking at the water fountain, I gave him a little nudge with my hip, and he hit his teeth on the water fountain. So we had to fight after school. And I was a big it was WWF at the time, now WWE. And so the fight started. I had these visions of what was going to happen, but instead he just got me in a headlock. All the kids are circling this. He just got me in a headlock, really in any danger. And we just kind of sat in a headlock, and I would do the Hulk Hogan, like, start shaking my hand like I was going to get up, which does nothing, right? I forgot that that doesn't serve a purpose in a fight. And so after everyone was like, screw it, this is boring. It's hey, let go of him, let's go. That was it. I didn't have any desire to be a fighter after that. Watching it, and what I've decided, I've gotten older. Actually went to AKA once and did the cardio with the team. And I realized I don't want to fight, but fighters did inspire me to work out and take the fight against myself. Right. So now I feel like if you see me in the yard with my headphones on, I'm swearing and grunting and yelling, they probably think I'm a crazy person because there's no one in front of me. but I have been so inspired from watching it. You go, and you do go back to those fights. Like when I'm really tired, I might be thinking of I'm like, I can't do this. I'm too tired. And I'll think, the one thing I always think of is when Gilbert Melendez fought Diego Sanchez, and it was like, he's already won the fight, but he's like, you know what? Come on, fuck it. Let's just go. Let's just keep swinging. And they just sat there swinging at each other. So I know Gilbert pretty well, but I literally in the middle of a workout, will be like, are you tired? What if right now this was happening? So I think that even Buster and I, we can visualize it and we can fight ourselves, even though
that's the only person I'm fighting.
Ball?
Yeah.
Do you do that, Buster, when you're playing ball? You think of Diego Sanchez and Gilbert Melendez?
I think about their basketball equivalents, but in the spirit, yes.
You got Westbrook just yelling at you when you're out there on the basketball court by yourself.
Right. You think it's like Game 7 of the finals, and then you always have like a little bit more energy to give, because that's true. I always hear people say like you only actually, spend like 20 or 30% in like an amazing workout of the energy you have. And so I think about that, but I don't think about sometimes maybe a few UFC fighters, but none of those guys.
Next time I work out, I'm just, come on, you're a 3-year-old girl on the playground. Tatiana's throwing you around. Are you going to let this happen? Push harder. That's what I'm going to be. I'm going to be that girl. We should find her.
Push harder.
Yeah. What ended up happening
to her? Do you become friends with her?
No, we fought one more time after that.
Well, at least did she come back for more, or you were just like, that was so fun, I'm gonna do this again?
No, I'm not a bully. No, I would never pick a fight. I'm like very anti-confrontational. I don't like competition. So
the pay-per-view numbers were so high in the first fight. She had to come back. Yeah,
exactly. I was like, what's going on? Why does she not like me? And then and like actually like at that point my mom was like, go beat her up, and I was like, okay, like why? And she was like, cuz. And then I just went out there because she was like talking smack to my mom, and I was just like standing out there, and she came at me, and I was like, oh, we going for round 2 then. And we just went at it, but it wasn't her going at it. She got beat up, but it's fine.
She thought she had the rematch clause. She came to cash in.
She's like, I'm here for vengeance, and I was like, not today.
No trilogy after that.
No trilogy. She was like, I'm over it. This is when we were a little bit older.
All right, so to wrap this up, let's each make 3 picks this weekend. All right, we've got Chikadze, Giga, Ninja, whatever we're calling him, against Edson Barboza. We got Kevin Lee against D-Rod, and we got Jake Paul against Tyron Woodley. Let's save Tatiana's picks for last. Buster, you go first.
All right, I'll start off with Barboza versus Giga.
I want to hear analysis on this one.
A little bit younger, Giga is. So I'm gonna go with Giga. Tiny bit taller, younger. That's my
all right. What about Kevin against D-Rod?
I want to see what's the record on their last fights? Who's coming off what?
So D-Rod's coming off of a win streak. I think he's had 6 fights in the UFC. I think he's 5-1 in the UFC now. And Kevin Lee's coming off of a 17-month layoff, but he won his last fight via, I don't even want to say it because it was my buddy Gregor. Was that his last fight? It was, huh?
I'm going to go with D-Rod then in that case. And then Paul versus Woodley. I'm going to say Jake Paul, because every single time prior that I said he wasn't going to win, he did. And I know how hard he's training. This is all he wants in his life. And I think that goes a long way. Obviously there's a significant chance he loses, but I know how bad he wants it. And, you give somebody 3 or 4 years to do that. And, everybody else at a certain point doesn't have any choice but to believe in him a little bit. And I think even people who say Woodley's going to win now believe there's a chance Jake wins, whereas, that hadn't always been true in the past. So I go Jake Paul on my 3rd pick.
All right, I got I got representing Georgia. Got our Patrol to be out there, but it's a closed event. Can't get in. He was there last time. He popped up on TV. So I think the Georgian spirit is going to win. Although Barboza's tough, but Barboza is one of those guys that I think in the narrative, it's more interesting as a fan if Ninja wins because the ceiling seems higher. So that might be what I'm going with. Kevin Lee, I don't know much about Daniel Rodriguez, to be honest. Kevin Lee guys to me that always almost right there, and then something happens, whether it's bad luck or those things. But I can't pick against know much about the other guy, so I'm going to go with Kevin, and then I'm going to go with Mr. Woodley, just because I just feel like it's. I mean, he's such an insane athlete with so much experience, at a significant size disadvantage, but at some point, Jake Paul is going to find someone where it's like, oh, there's levels to this. I think he maybe found that guy, and I think picturing what's going to happen in the future. I think this allows them both to keep going. And
so are we going to keep track of all these scores and keep track of the points here on the show?
Yeah. Well, we're definitely going to keep track of Tatiana's. And I don't think there's any reason to keep track of mine, but I mean, I just said it, But Tatiana, who do you got?
This first one's really hard for me. I'm going to go with Barboza. I think he's he's a killer. I think he's good. But I think maybe the difference here will be how many fights Edson has and how many the high level competition that he's fought so far. I know Giga, I'm pretty sure he was a kickboxer. I don't know his whole background, but I'm guessing he was a really good kickboxer by the way he fights. But in terms of, the UFC and little gloves, I think Edson has a lot more fights. I don't know. You can't quote me on that because I didn't look up their records, but, and he's just faced high level competition for a while. So we could look it up if you want. Buster, are you doing that?
Look it up.
I think he's definitely got more fights. He's definitely shown he's definitely shown he's durable and can fight a number of styles.
Yeah. The thing, with Giga is, like I said, I don't know his background. I didn't look him up, but I've seen all his fights in the UFC. And Giga's I was very
13-2, by the way.
Giga is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And what's Edson?
22-9.
Well, there you go. So he just, I just think, he's had a lot more fights. I think maybe I would say, I think it depends on which Edson shows up because there's some fights where I'm like, damn. And then I don't know. I've never watched the Edson Barboza fight except for when he kept getting taken down. That I was like, this is he's not doing great here, and I don't think Giga's going to take him down. So he's always entertaining. I think I feel like that, it's going to be a great fight regardless. But the next fight, I cannot pick. The reason why I cannot pick is because they are my PT buddies. I see them in the PT room every single day. And there's no way that I'm picking on the show because they're going to be
they're both your buddies?
They're my PT buddies.
They're both in PT? Oh,
yeah. I see them in the PT room every day. So how awkward is it going to be if I was like, oh, so-and-so won? And then I see
them get in a fight with them.
Yeah. I got crutches. I can't even fight them. I wouldn't fight them. They would definitely win. But, I'm not trying to make any enemies in the PT room. I have to be there for another few weeks with my knee. So
what do you think about Paul Woodley? Who's going to win?
Paul Woodley. Oh, that sounded funny. I was thinking you were saying that was their name. I was like, who the heck?
Paul Woodley. It's a hell of a promoter right there.
I was like, is that a fighter? I don't even know that guy. I'm gonna go with Tyron because he has a lot more experience. I do think that Jake Paul has a lot of drive. That's for sure. And he has that, you know, wrestler mentality, I think, like to work really hard. And I admired that a lot about him. But I just can't go against Tyron. You gotta stick, UFC crew gotta stick together, MMA fighters gotta stick together. So I'm gonna say Tyron because
so
of
note
that.
the bias.
I don't want to be biased, but I'm biased.
But I do think, Buster, I do think it's interesting that Jake Paul has. I didn't know much about him as his pre-boxing. I've heard of him, but I didn't know, like, I couldn't tell you what his YouTube videos were about. I just knew he was kind of like a party guy that did pranks and stuff. And then that's what I thought. But it is interesting that, like, I'm supposed to be, you know, older. I'm supposed to be in the that thinks that just dismisses him as like this idiot, right? I'm saying I respect the fact that he's fighting, putting himself out there, seem to be working really hard. And then you've got a UFC saying the same thing, so I think he's saying that she at least respects how hard he works and that he's going for it. So I do think it's interesting that he's transitioned from YouTuber trying to fight into he's got the respect of people that he's given it a real go. It's just, I think he bit off more than he can chew. But I do think Tatiana, because she skipped out on a pick, we can't let her off this easy.
What?
I think
better not be my buddies again.
I think she should double down. So she's got to pick one of those two fights as her double pick, right? So that'll make her at 3 picks. So we each pick 3. She's got to take either the UFC main event or Woodley.
Yes, Giga was
as their double
glory kickboxer.
All right, so Barboza or Woodley, and you've got to
oh,
assign
shoot.
2.
Have you seen his kickboxing? 22 knockouts.
And you can't change your pick. You already made it. There's a research. You took the Buster approach of no research, so you're gonna have to stick with your pick now.
He has 1 submission. Not great.
All right, who are you gonna double up on? You're gonna double up on Barboza, or you're gonna double up on Woodley?
I'm gonna double it up on none of them. Hold on. Can we pick a different fight? What's the guy's name that I told you guys earlier? The Russian.
Mahmoud Muradov.
Is he not? He's not Russian though. He's something else.
From Uzbekistan.
I knew it because his flag is not Czech, and I know the Czech flag.
So he's both.
Yeah.
Okay. Rhymes with Czech in the middle of the word and formerly Russian. Okay.
So I'm gonna go with the Uzbekistan Czechian.
Do fighters ever confront Dana? Like when he kind of goes at him? Does it ever happen, or is it just always?
I've never seen it. The only person that I could ever think that would even try that would be like Rampage or something.
Yeah. Do people take it personally, or do they know, hey, this is just part of the promoter's job and he's got to do this, or do they take it personally?
Some of them say stuff about Dana when he says stuff about them, but I've never seen anybody like confront him.
Yeah. All right. Last question. You're undefeated, right? So you look at people and you say, like, they might throw a name at you depending on timing, right? You might say, hey, the only way I'm fighting is if it's for a title or if it's this person or this person. They might say, hey, we can't fit that in right now. Here's someone else you could fight. Do you look at it like anyone, anytime, or do you look at it like, why would I do that?
Absolutely. I'd be like, I'm getting paid the same, whether it's a top 6, like if it's number 20 or if it's number 5, really at that point. The only time that I ever was like, well, I don't really want to go backwards was when I was trying to get a title shot, and I was on, a 5 fight win streak, and the UFC was like, oh, well, they didn't even ask me. They didn't ask me to fight anybody lower. They were like, you want to fight number 3? And I was like, absolutely. But I had said something about, like, Angela Hill was like, she didn't call me out or anything, but I was like, oh, I would dance with you, but at this point, because I was just waiting, and I was just kind of like, and I think it was just like a conversation. Like, I was like, well, I mean, that's not the first fight that I would pick, but this was when I was trying to, get a title shot or whatever, like fight somebody to get a title shot. And so, but now if the UFC, now I can't fight right now, but before this, if they would have offered me Angela Hill, even though I got to number 3, I'd be like, yeah, heck yeah, I'd fight her. So I'd rather fight somebody like far down the line or whatever, not even close, than not fight at all, kind of thing.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
It's experience, and it's like it's another fight. You're still getting paid. It's more experience in the cage, and
more wins. More wins in the win column.
Oh yeah, and that too.
How about this, Buster? I got a fight lined up for you. We'll set it up. You're gonna play DC, Daniel Cormier, in either NBA 2K or Madden. Are you confident you're gonna right now? Can you beat him
in 2K? Yeah, I'm confident.
All right. Can we get a promo? Can we get a little call out here? What's gonna happen if DC? You play DC in NBA 2K? You're gonna represent. All right.
I'm winning that 2K game.
Because the Scuffle Show's reputation is on the line here. You're not just representing yourself anymore. You're representing the three of us.
The three of us.
I'm tripling down on all of my picks today. I'm transferring the points from those picks to this 2K game, and I will go double or nothing all day.
All right,
too.
You heard it here first, DC.
You heard
Buster
it here first.
is not scared. Scuffle Show, we're calling you out.
So, hey, I really had to ask this. So, Buster, you think Shaq would win
versus Floyd Mayweather?
Yes.
In like a no rules thing or like a professional boxing match?
No, professional boxing.
I think he would. He's so big, because if it was
crazy,
prime Shaq, prime Mayweather, I think Mayweather wins. Right now, I think Shaq wins. Because
really?
what happened with
I feel
Logan
like now
Paul,
Shaq is like, he probably doesn't move the same. Like,
let's say he probably doesn't, but I know he still works out a lot. And what happened with Logan Paul and Floyd was Logan kept hugging him and making it really difficult to hit him. Floyd in his corner said that he couldn't hit him because of how close he was and how much bigger he was. Shaq is Logan Paul. If Logan were 7'1", 360, Shaq's probably bigger than that now. If Shaq were to hug Mayweather, Mayweather's not getting anything in. And all Shaq needs is a couple of frenzies of that. And I think it's Logan on steroids in terms of strength.
Buster, if Shaq's arms
think about it. Logan's so he's young. He's a young buck.
He is.
Yeah. Buster, there's no way if Shaq's wingspan isn't your wingspan the same as your height, right? So Shaq's wingspan's about 7 feet.
Just about, yeah.
If
I feel like Floyd would just like roll under every punch, and like Shaq
would literally be like, it would
Shaq
be like
would
this.
get tired, and he would be like, "Screw this! I'm just gonna go sit on the stool."
You guys make
Mayweather could get,
but I think
Mayweather would get close, and there's no way.
If Shaq were in shape, he's just so big. I said that was a fight I want to see, and I mean maybe I'm wrong. I have the outsider's perspective from a fighting standpoint, but I think it would be a fun fight.
I feel like Floyd would come in, get inside his reach, hit the body a few times. I don't know. I think Floyd would still win.
Well, there's only one way to find out. Shaq?
Let's put it together.
Yeah. There would be a press conference where Floyd was claiming that he just committed another bank robbery in front of the country after that one.
It's the kind of thing that I could see Shaq doing too. He's done pretty much everything else. He's DJs professionally now.
Totally the same thing.
Totally. I mean, hey, he's jumping around on stage. I've read stats where live performers can burn like 1,000+ calories in a single performance. So maybe he is his head jams because he's an EDM DJ. Probably keep him in shape from the neck up.
Tatiana, how long would it take you to take Shaq down?
I wouldn't even try. He'd freaking squash me. I'd get another. I'd probably break my toe trying to do it.
Break your toe?
I don't know.
Do you think you could take him down or no?
I'd be so scared to try to take him down, risk another injury. I can't afford another one.
My argument.
Huh?
I feel like that response helps my argument here.
I feel like I'd be able to like get behind him and jump on top of him.
Yeah, see.
Not take him down, but yeah. I probably could get like, he'd probably be like twirling around trying to get me off his back. I don't know. Let's set it up. No, let's not set it up.
All right, first we got Buster against DC in 2K. If Buster wins, then we'll work on Tatiana versus Shaq.
That would be good.
I have a long way to go, guys. I'm injured. So I would say give me like a year and a half.
Oh, it's gonna go by fast.
Yeah.
Always does.
I see you on Instagram. You're still doing pull-ups and.
Oh yeah, I'm working out every day, almost every day. Yeah, and then I do my PT twice a day.
Yeah, those suction cups are crazy. Like how far up the skin goes into the suction cup. Like it doesn't. I looked at it and I was like, I was trying to stretch myself. I'm like, how the hell is it so high?
Oh man, yeah, it feels like you're just peeling your skin off of your body. It's terrible.
There's another thing we can do, not to let this deteriorate to Frank, but when we do this in person, I think we can see how many of those suction cups Buck stand before it's just too much for him.
On who?
On Buster. We'll just put as many.
On Buster. I'm not doing that challenge.
Yeah. No, we'll throw a number out there. Buster will have an over/under, and we'll pick if he can. I don't even know how they work, how long they can stay on there, or how much until he taps out to the suction cups.
I don't even really know what it is, so I'm gonna do my research before I officially commit to this. But
you've never seen cupping?
I've seen like the aftermath on people's backs, but yeah. I've never done it. I'll try it though. I'm open to this.
Okay.
I do cryotherapy regularly, but I don't think those two things compare.
They do not compare at all.
You'll need the cryo afterwards, I think.
Yeah.
My approach is just to be the instigator to avoid having to be part of any of these contests. I'll just throw them out there and try to keep
Nick's
I'll just throw them out there.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that challenge. That's for sure.
I'll do it. I'll be the show's guinea pig. I've got nothing to lose here. Well, Tatiana, Nick, thanks so much for jumping on, getting this episode 1 in the books. Everybody, make sure to download, subscribe, and check out the Vover app for clips and more. See you guys.
Vover!